I'm 73 years old, and the reason I wake up with steady energy, a clear mind, and a lightness in my step is not a fancy supplement, not perfect genes, and certainly not a secret only the wealthy can afford. It's something much simpler and far more powerful. I learned to listen to my body, and then I stopped feeding the silent fires that were aging me from the inside out. Today, I'm not going to tell you what I eat. I'm going to tell you what I stopped eating and why that changed everything. The stiffness in my fingers that made mornings feel old, the heavy fog after meals, the restless sleep that stole my evenings, they began to fade when I took certain everyday foods off my plate. Not because I started eating less, but because I stopped fighting my own biology. If you've been doing all the right things and still feel tired after lunch, puffy around the middle, or a little slower getting up from the chair, you're not broken and you're not late. Your body is simply wiser now. It's asking for a different kind of care. When you remove the foods that inflame and confuse your cells, your body remembers how to heal. Your joints soften, your thoughts sharpen, your skin begins to look alive again, as if someone turned the light back on from within. Stay with me to the end, because I'm going to name the 6 foods I stopped eating and the gentle swaps that brought my strength back. And I have a small gift for you. I'll give you a simple phrase to write in the comments so I can find your message and send it to you personally. This could be the moment you stop chasing fixes and start feeling like yourself again. The phrase is, I want to improve my health. Write it exactly like that when we reach the end. I'll see it personally, and I'll send you a small thank you to help you begin your journey toward a calmer, stronger, and more vibrant body. You know, I meet so many people in their 60s and 70s who say the same thing to me. Barbara, I'm doing everything right. I eat my vegetables, I go for walks, I drink water, but I still feel tired. My belly stays bloated, my joints ache, and I wake up more exhausted than when I went to bed. And every time I nod because I know that feeling. That quiet frustration when you're following all the healthy advice, yet your body still feels older than your spirit. You start to wonder if maybe this is just what aging feels like, but I promise you it's not. What's really happening is something no one tells you. Your body's chemistry changes after 60. The rules shift. The foods you once tolerated, the bread you loved, the cereal you grew up on, even that little splash of vegetable oil in the pan can start working against you instead of for you. See, when you were younger, your body was more forgiving. You could eat almost anything and bounce back because your cells were fast, your hormones were strong, and your digestion was resilient. But as time passes, the body becomes wiser and more selective. It doesn't stop working. It simply stops tolerating what slows it down. Your stomach acid becomes gentler so you don't break down food the same way. Your liver works harder to detoxify modern chemicals, and your cells, those tiny engines that keep you alive, start reacting differently to certain oils, flours and sugars, not with pain at first, but with inflammation. Silent inflammation, the invisible kind that doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up as morning stiffness, brain fog, swelling in your hands, puffiness around your face, or that heavy feeling after a healthy meal. It's not about eating less. It's about stopping the foods that quietly feed that fire every single day. And once I understood that, everything began to change. So before we go any further, I want you to hold on to this idea. Healthy aging isn't about restriction or deprivation. It's not about starving yourself. It's about ending the confusion inside your body because your body wants to heal. It just needs you to stop feeding the inflammation that's been stealing your energy, your glow, and your joy. Now let me show you exactly what that means. The first of the 6 foods I stopped eating and why removing it gave me back my vitality. The truth is, aging isn't caused by calories or even by fat. It's caused by something much quieter. The slow, steady buildup of inflammation, blood sugar spikes, oxidative stress, and what I call cellular confusion. Imagine your body as a beautiful clock, one that once ran perfectly, every gear turning, every spring moving in harmony. But then tiny grains of sand begin to slip inside. Not enough to break it right away, just enough to make it slower, heavier, less precise. That's what happens inside your body when inflammation takes hold. Every time you eat foods that your cells can't recognize, the ones that cause quick rises in blood sugar or the oils that oxidize in your pan, it's like sprinkling more sand into those gears. The system still moves, but not smoothly anymore. Your energy starts dipping after meals. Your joints begin to ache. Your mind feels foggy, and you think it's aging, but it's not aging, it's interference. When your blood sugar jumps too high, your insulin rushes in to protect you. Over time, that constant roller coaster tires your cells, dulls your hormones, and leaves you feeling drained. When those damaged fats from processed oils sneak into your cell membranes, they stiffen them. Your cells can't breathe or communicate properly. And when your gut lining becomes inflamed, even slightly, the barrier that once protected you begins to leak. Tiny food particles slip through, confusing your immune system and fueling even more inflammation. It's a cycle. Eat, react, inflame, repeat. And most people live inside that loop for years without ever realizing it. But here's the hopeful part. Your body remembers how to heal. It's not broken, it's just waiting for peace. When you take away the foods that keep scratching those wounds, the inflammation begins to quiet. Your insulin calms, your cells start to communicate again. Energy returns, skin clears, digestion smooths, and the fog begins to lift. The solution isn't another pill or another supplement. It's a kind of gentle subtraction, removing what disturbs, so the body can remember what balance feels like. That's what I did. I stopped focusing on what to add and began focusing on what to remove. I took away 6 common foods, foods most people still believe are healthy, and almost overnight my body began to thank me. My digestion settled, my mornings felt lighter, and that quiet ache in my joints began to disappear. So let's begin there with the first one. The food most people eat every single morning thinking it's giving them strength, when in truth it's been quietly draining it. The first food I stopped eating was one I once believed was healthy, those so-called whole grain breads and breakfast cereals. For years they were part of my morning routine. A slice of brown bread, a bowl of flakes that promised fibre and heart health. They looked wholesome, even comforting. But what I didn't realise was that these were ultra-processed grains, stripped, reheated, sprayed and reassembled to look natural again. Inside, they were nothing like the grains our grandparents ate. Their starches digest faster than sugar, spiking blood glucose and insulin before you've even left the breakfast table. And to make things worse, most are mixed with oxidized seed oils and traces of gluten that your body can no longer handle with ease. That combination, quick starch, damaged fat, and residue from modern wheat, is like throwing sparks into dry grass. It lights up inflammation quietly, but persistently. At first, it doesn't scream. It just whispers, a foggy head after breakfast, a craving for more sweets mid-morning, that dull stiffness in your fingers as you reach for your cup of tea. If you're over 60, you might know that sleepy, heavy feeling that comes after eating bread or cereal. You sit down to rest, and before you know it, your eyelids start to fall. That's not just age, that's your blood sugar crashing after the spike. And the stiffness you feel when you wake up, it's not only arthritis, it's the inflammation that comes from constantly bathing your joints in glucose and oxidized oils. I remember noticing something simple but powerful when I stopped eating those foods. 2 weeks later, I looked down at my hands one morning and saw something different. The puffiness was gone. My rings slipped on easily again. The tightness I used to feel around my knuckles had softened. That's when I realized this isn't about weight or even calories. It's about chemistry. And once you stop flooding your system with those sharp glucose spikes and inflammatory oils, your body starts breathing again. Now that doesn't mean you have to give up bread forever, I still enjoy a slice occasionally, but it's real bread. Slow fermented sourdough made with natural yeast, the kind that digests gently and feeds your gut instead of irritating it. Sometimes I'll start my mornings with soaked whole oats, quinoa, or a bit of protein and healthy fat. A handful of walnuts, maybe some eggs or avocado. That steadiness carries me through the morning without the crashes, the cravings, or the swelling. It's a small change, but one that ripples through your entire day. Your body begins to feel calmer, your energy more even, your mind clearer, and that's the quiet magic of removing the first trigger, the fake whole grains that were never truly whole. When I made that switch, my body whispered back, "Thank you. This is what I remember," and that's when I knew I was on the right path, so I kept going. Let's talk about the next food I let go of. One that hides in almost every kitchen, even in bottles labelled heart healthy. The second food I stopped was one that almost everyone believes is good for them. Fruit juices and so-called healthy smoothies. For years I started my mornings with a tall glass of orange juice or blended fruit, thinking I was doing my body a favour. It felt fresh, it looked colourful, and it tasted like energy. But over time I began to notice something subtle. After that glass I'd feel a quick burst of energy, and then an hour later a sudden dip. My focus would fade, my stomach would growl again, and by midday I'd feel strangely tired. What I didn't understand then is that fruit juice, even the kind labelled 100% natural, is free sugar without its natural fibre. When you remove the fibre, you remove nature's speed bump. That fibre is what slows digestion, keeps your blood sugar stable, and tells your brain you're full. Without it, the natural sugars from fruit hit your bloodstream like a wave, fast, hard, and all at once. At our age, the body doesn't handle those sugar surges the same way it used to. The pancreas responds more slowly. The liver works overtime to process the excess, turning what it can't use into stored fat, often right around the middle. That's why so many people over 60 notice stubborn belly fat that won't go away, even if they're eating less. It's not just calories, it's the repeated sugar spikes from juices and smoothies that seem healthy. And here's the part few people realise, those spikes don't only affect your waistline, they affect your sleep. When blood sugar drops sharply at night, your body releases stress hormones to bring it back up. That's what causes those 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. awakenings, when you suddenly find yourself wide awake for no reason. It's not always anxiety. Sometimes it's unstable blood sugar. I remember a lovely woman named Carol who came to one of my talks. She was in her late 60s, active, sharp, but frustrated because she couldn't sleep through the night and often craved something sweet before bed. She told me she drank healthy smoothies, banana, mango, and a splash of orange juice, thinking they helped her digestion. I gently suggested she replace that nightly smoothie with a small bowl of whole yogurt and a few berries, and to sip lemon water during the day instead of juice. 2 weeks later, she wrote to me. She said, "Barbara, I can't believe this. My cravings are gone, and for the first time in years, I'm sleeping through the night." That's the beauty of balance. Small changes, big peace. Now, I still enjoy fruit, but I eat it the way nature designed it, whole, with the fibre after a meal, or with protein and healthy fats. A handful of blueberries with yogurt, or an apple with a spoonful of cottage cheese. Those combinations keep your blood sugar calm, your liver happy, and your energy steady. So if you've been starting your mornings with a glass of juice or an oversized smoothie, try swapping it for water with lemon, or eat the fruit whole instead. Your body will thank you, not just with better energy, but with calmer nights, steadier moods, and that lightness you thought you'd lost. That's what happened to me when I stopped drinking my healthy juices. My body stopped crashing. And I realised something simple yet powerful. Nature never meant for us to drink our fruit. We were meant to chew it, slowly, gratefully, completely. Now, let's move to the next one, a sneaky culprit that hides in almost every bottle, jar, and kitchen shelf, quietly feeding inflammation every single day. The third thing I stopped was something that hides in almost every kitchen, those so-called heart-healthy seed oils: canola, soybean, sunflower and grapeseed oil. For most of my life, I thought I was making the right choice by cooking with them. They were light, cheap, and the labels promised low cholesterol and good health. But over time, I learned the truth. These oils aren't what they seem. They may come from plants, but by the time they reach your bottle, they've been refined, bleached and deodorized. That process strips away everything natural and leaves behind unstable fats that oxidize the moment they meet heat, light or air. And when you cook with them, those oxidized molecules enter your body, where they do something subtle but dangerous. They stiffen your cell membranes. Think of your cells as tiny bubbles wrapped in delicate, flexible walls. Those walls are what let nutrients in and waste out. But when damaged fats from refined oils build up in them, the walls lose their softness. They become rigid, like old hinges that no longer move smoothly. And when your cells can't communicate or move freely, everything slows down. Your healing, your digestion, even your mood. It's like pouring rancid oil into an engine. It doesn't keep things moving, it makes them stick. After years of using seed oils, I noticed subtle things. My joints ached after long walks, my skin looked dull no matter what I ate, and small cuts on my hands took longer to heal. I didn't connect it at first, but when I began replacing those oils, the difference was remarkable. Within weeks, the pain in my fingers softened, my skin began to glow again, not from creams, but from the inside out. I started feeling lighter, smoother, as if the rust in my body had been gently polished away. Now, instead of canola or soybean oil, I use extra virgin olive oil for anything I don't heat, drizzled over salads, soups, or cooked vegetables. It's full of antioxidants and stable fats that calm inflammation instead of causing it. For cooking, I use ghee or grass-fed butter, pure, golden, and naturally rich in nutrients that nourish the brain and joints, and sometimes a little coconut oil when I need something with a higher smoke point. And for snacks, whole nuts and seeds in their natural form, untouched by machines or chemicals. That's the kind of fat your body knows how to use. So if you've been reaching for that bottle of canola or sunflower oil thinking it's a healthy choice, take a moment to read the fine print. Those words, refined, deodorized, bleached, tell you everything. You wouldn't pour old rancid oil into the engine of your car, so why pour it into the engine of your body? When I made that change, it was like oiling the hinges of life again. My joints loosened, my energy flowed, and my skin regained that gentle shine that no supplement had ever given me. It's such a simple switch, but one that can truly turn back the clock inside your body. And once I felt that shift, I knew something else had to go, something cold, sweet and innocent, but quietly exhausting my liver and my mind. The fourth thing I stopped was something I used to think was a smart choice: low-fat dairy. Those shiny cups of light yogurt, skim milk and sugar-free puddings that filled my fridge for years. They promised health, balance and weight control. But the truth is, those foods were quietly working against me. You see, when you strip dairy of its natural fat, you also strip away the part that satisfies you, the part that slows digestion and tells your brain, I'm full, I'm nourished. Without that natural fat, manufacturers have to make up for it somehow. And they usually do it with gums, thickeners and sugar. So while the label may say low fat, what it really means is highly processed, a product designed to trick your tongue, not to feed your cells. I used to eat those little fruit yogurts between meals, thinking they were healthy snacks. But within an hour, I'd be hungry again, searching for something sweet. My stomach felt bloated, my skin looked irritated, and my energy swung up and down all day. I didn't realize it then, but those products were quietly disrupting my gut, the very core of my immune system. When we eat low-fat sweetened dairy, two things happen. First, the sugar feeds the wrong bacteria in your gut, throwing your microbiome off balance. Second, without fat to anchor your digestion, the sugar hits your bloodstream quickly, causing that reactive hunger that makes you crave more. And for many people over 60, that cycle creates a cascade of issues: bloating, irregular digestion, restless sleep, and even dull, inflamed skin. I remember one morning, I opened the fridge and looked at a row of those little plastic cups, strawberry, vanilla, blueberry, all promising health. I smiled and I realised I didn't need them anymore. That was the day I switched to real food again. Now I enjoy whole, unsweetened yogurt, the kind that still has its natural richness and tang. Sometimes I choose kefir, that beautiful fermented drink that's full of living probiotics that help heal the gut from the inside. I'll add a touch of cinnamon for balance, or a handful of chopped walnuts for texture, and suddenly it's not just a snack, it's nourishment. When I made that change, something surprising happened. My cravings disappeared. My digestion calmed down. My skin, which had been dry and uneven, began to look clearer and softer, as if the inflammation beneath the surface had finally quieted. That's the difference between a manufactured food and a living food. One confuses your body, the other restores it. So, if you've been filling your fridge with low-fat flavoured yogurts or light dairy, I invite you to try something different. Choose the full-fat plain version, the one that's closer to nature. Add your own flavour with cinnamon, berries, or a drizzle of honey if you like. You'll feel full longer, your gut will thank you, and your skin will start to glow again. It's such a gentle shift, but it brings a peace you can feel. And once I made that change, I noticed something else. My energy lifted. But there was still one habit, one I held on to out of convenience, that kept pulling me back into fatigue, and that's the next food I had to let go of. The fifth thing I stopped might surprise you, those so-called healthy fitness bars and protein snacks. They looked like the perfect solution: small, convenient, and packed with promises. High protein, low sugar, energy boost. You've seen them everywhere, at the gym, at the checkout counter, even in your pantry. And for years I believed them. I kept a few in my bag thinking they were my safety net between meals. But here's the truth. Most of those bars are ultra-processed candy in disguise. They may have a few grams of protein or fibre, but they're held together by syrups, sugar alcohols, emulsifiers, and synthetic sweeteners that your body doesn't recognise as food. And what happens when your body doesn't recognise something? It struggles. Those fitness snacks are often loaded with maltitol, sorbitol, or other sugar substitutes that can cause bloating, gas and discomfort, especially for people over 60 when digestion naturally slows. The artificial fibres and gums confuse your gut bacteria, leading to imbalance. At first I thought my stomach pain and fatigue were just from stress or age. But once I looked closer, I realised that every time I ate one of those shiny little bars, I'd feel heavy, uncomfortable, and strangely sleepy an hour later. My blood sugar would spike, then crash, leaving me craving something else to bring it back up. That roller coaster of glucose and energy is exhausting for the body, and it never allows your metabolism to truly rest. So I let them go. All of them, and in their place I chose real food. Now, when I want a snack, I reach for a small handful of walnuts or almonds. Sometimes I'll have a few slices of cucumber with hummus, simple, grounding, nourishing. And when I crave something sweet, I take one date, split it open, and fill it with a touch of tahini or almond butter. It tastes decadent, but it's real, rich in minerals, fibre, and healthy fats that keep your blood sugar steady. I remember one afternoon, after switching my snacks, I noticed something small but powerful. My energy stayed even. There was no afternoon crash, no foggy head, no desperate search for another bite. My stomach felt calm, my mood steady, and that's when it hit me. Those bars were never giving me energy, they were borrowing it from me. Now, I snack less often, but when I do, every bite counts. It's real. It's simple, and it leaves me feeling clean inside. So if you've been leaning on those protein bars or healthy snacks to get through your day, try this instead. A handful of nuts, a square of dark chocolate, or fresh vegetables with hummus. Your digestion will feel lighter, your energy steadier, and your body will finally exhale. Because true nourishment doesn't come wrapped in plastic, it comes from the earth, simple, whole, and alive. And speaking of things that come from plastic, there was still one last habit I had to break. Something that seemed harmless, even helpful, but was quietly draining my body from within. The sixth food I stopped eating was one that once seemed practical, even comforting: processed meats. Those cold cuts, deli slices, sausages, and so-called lean hams that sneak into so many sandwiches and quick meals. For years, they were my shortcut. Easy, ready to eat, packed with protein. I used to tell myself it's just turkey breast, that can't be bad, but little by little, I began to feel the difference in my body, a heaviness after meals, stiffness in my hands and legs, and a strange tension in my chest that I couldn't quite explain. Later I learned why. Processed meats are preserved with nitrites and nitrates, chemicals that keep the meat pink and prevent spoilage. But inside the body, especially as we age, those compounds can form nitrosamines, substances that irritate blood vessels, promote inflammation, and accelerate what's called vascular aging. That means your arteries, the soft, flexible pathways that carry life through your body, start to stiffen, just like old pipes that can't handle the same flow. And when that happens, blood pressure rises, joints ache, and fatigue becomes your quiet companion. On top of that, most processed meats are high in advanced glycation end products, or AGs, molecules formed during high temperature processing and cooking. They literally make your tissues less elastic, from your skin to your blood vessels. You can feel it, the tightness, the dryness, the loss of flow, and of course there's the salt. So much of it that it silently overloads your kidneys, retains fluid, and leaves you feeling swollen and stiff. Once I understood all this, I asked myself a simple question: why am I eating food that's designed to last months on a shelf when my goal is to stay alive and vibrant every day? That was the moment I stopped. I replaced those processed slices with real, living protein. Now I enjoy pasture-raised eggs, simple, nourishing, full of choline and healthy fats that feed the brain. I eat wild-caught fish, salmon, sardines, or mackerel for their anti-inflammatory omega-3s. And when I want something hearty, I cook free-range chicken or grass-fed beef gently, never charred or overcooked, because the way you cook matters just as much as what you cook. Gentle methods, steaming, poaching, slow roasting, keep those proteins intact and your body calm. And here's a little habit that's helped me for years. I always cook for today and for tomorrow. When I prepare dinner, I make a little extra. That way, when hunger strikes the next day, I already have something wholesome ready in the fridge. No excuses, no reaching for deli meat or quick fixes. It's a small act of care, but it saves you from so many silent mistakes. When I made this shift, something beautiful happened. My body softened again, not in weakness, but in ease. My circulation improved, the stiffness in my legs eased, and my skin began to feel more supple, more alive. And I realized something profound. We age not because time moves forward, but because inflammation does. When you remove its sources, when you stop feeding it day after day, the body remembers how to flow again freely, gracefully, like it once did. That was the gift I gave myself when I said goodbye to processed meats. And it's one of the simplest, kindest choices you can make too. Now that we've talked about the foods I stopped, let's take a moment to look at what happened next. How my body, once tired and rigid, began to remember what health feels like again. When I finally removed those 6 foods, something remarkable began to happen. Quietly at first, then more clearly with each passing week. It wasn't a miracle, it wasn't instant, it was simply my body remembering what it was designed to do. You see, when you stop feeding inflammation, the body doesn't just pause the damage, it begins to reverse it. It's like clearing fog from a window. Slowly the view becomes brighter, sharper, more alive. Here's what truly happens behind the scenes. When inflammation begins to drop, your insulin signals start working again. That means your body can finally use energy efficiently instead of storing it as fat. Your cells stop feeling starved and start feeling fed. Then something beautiful happens. Your mitochondria, the tiny engines inside every cell, begin to wake up. They start producing energy again, real energy, the kind that carries you through the day without that afternoon crash or that dull heaviness after meals. And as your energy returns, your sleep deepens. Your body finally enters that slow, peaceful rhythm of rest, where real healing happens, not just rest for the mind, but repair for your tissues, your skin, your joints, your heart. I call this the healing cycle. It doesn't happen in one leap. It moves like the seasons, gently, gradually, but powerfully. In just a few days, you start to notice less bloating, fewer cravings, and calmer energy. After a few weeks, you wake up lighter, your digestion steadier, your skin clearer. And in a few months, the transformation becomes deeper. Your body feels younger, not because time has changed, but because your cells have. That's the secret most people overlook. Your body isn't broken, it's waiting. Waiting for you to stop the noise, the chemicals, the spikes, the stress, so it can finally do what it's been trying to do all along. And you don't have to do it perfectly. Please don't even try. Perfection is pressure. Pressure raises stress. And stress is just another kind of inflammation. Instead, choose consistency with kindness. Do your best most days. Forgive yourself on the others. Every small loving choice adds up: a better breakfast, a calmer dinner, a few deep breaths before bed. When you treat your body with that kind of gentle consistency, it responds with gratitude. It starts whispering back to you in clearer thoughts, in steadier moods, in the quiet joy of waking up with energy again. That's how the healing truly works, not through force or restriction, but through patience, nourishment, and trust. And once that cycle begins, it doesn't stop. It grows stronger every week, carrying you closer to the health, peace, and freedom you thought you'd lost. Now, before we finish, I want to share something from my heart, because this journey isn't just about food. It's about remembering that your body is still on your side, no matter how many years have passed. There's one mistake I see almost everyone make, and I made it too for many years. When we start feeling tired, when our joints ache or our memory slips, our first instinct is to add something, another supplement, another powder, another pill that promises balance and renewal. But true healing doesn't always come from adding more. It often comes from taking away what's hurting you. You see, the body is incredibly intelligent. It doesn't need a long list of synthetic boosters to heal. What it needs most is clarity, a quiet environment, a system free from confusion and noise. When we keep adding supplements on top of processed foods, seed oils, and artificial sweeteners, it's like trying to play music in a room filled with static. The signal gets lost. The body can't hear what you're asking it to do. I used to take handfuls of capsules every morning. Vitamins for energy, minerals for sleep, powders for the gut. But I was still tired, still foggy, still swollen. It wasn't until I removed the triggers, the inflammatory oils, the refined grains, the sweetened yogurts, that my body began to quiet down. And in that quiet, healing finally began. So if you take one message from me today, let it be this: it's not about eating less. It's about eating with less noise. When your meals are simple, real, and peaceful, when your plate isn't filled with artificial colors, preservatives, and chemicals, your cells can finally listen. They can recognize what you're giving them. They know exactly what to do with real food. The irony is that most people are overfed but undernourished. They eat plenty, but their bodies are starving for clarity, starving for foods that carry life, not confusion. So before you spend another dollar on something to add, ask yourself, what could I gently let go of? Because sometimes the most powerful healing comes not from addition, but from subtraction, from removing the constant static so your body can finally sing again. And once you do that, once you free yourself from the noise, something beautiful happens. Your body starts to trust you again. Your digestion settles, your mind clears, your energy steadies, and you begin to feel that quiet, grounded strength. that comes when everything inside you finally works in harmony. That's when you know you're on the right path. Not because you've added something new, but because you've stopped fighting against yourself. And from that calm foundation, everything else, your strength, your glow, your peace, begins to return. I'll never forget the first morning I felt the change. It wasn't dramatic. There was no sudden burst of energy or miracle transformation. It was quiet, gentle, almost shy. I woke up, swung my legs over the side of the bed, and realized something felt different. My joints didn't protest, my hands weren't swollen, my stomach, once bloated and uncomfortable, felt calm. And for the first time in a long time, my mind felt clear. That's how healing begins, not with fireworks, but with whispers. At first, it's the little things. You notice that your belly feels flatter after meals, that the stiffness in your knees eases a little faster, that you can breathe more deeply when you walk. You sleep more soundly, and you wake up before your alarm with a quiet sense of readiness instead of dread. These are the early signs, the body saying, "Thank you, I remember now." Because that's the truth, isn't it? Your body never forgot how to heal. It was never broken, only overwhelmed. It was waiting patiently for the noise to stop, for the inflammation to cool, for the chaos in your blood sugar to settle, for the signals between your cells to finally come through clearly again. When you remove the interference and feed it the way nature intended, your body doesn't need convincing. It knows exactly what to do. Every cell, every tissue, every organ has a kind of memory, a memory of balance, of vitality, of peace. It's written deep inside you from the day you were born, and when you finally give your body the right signal, when you nourish instead of numb, when you rest instead of rush, when you simplify instead of complicate, that memory wakes up. Healing begins to unfold quietly, beautifully, like the first light of morning touching the earth. You start to feel at home again inside your own skin. Not fighting it, not fixing it, just living in it, comfortably, gratefully. And that's the real miracle. Not a new supplement or a quick fix, but this rediscovery, this moment when you realize your body has been waiting all along, ready to rise the second you give it permission, because your body doesn't forget how to heal. It only needs the right signal and a little faith that it still can. So my dear friend, if there's one truth I want you to take with you today, it's this: you don't need another pill. You don't need another quick fix. You simply need to stop feeding what's been dimming your light. Because the moment you remove what's hurting you, your body begins to remember how to shine again. The power to heal has always been inside you, not in a bottle, not in a brand, but in the quiet intelligence of your own cells. And when you treat them with gentleness, when you feed them what's real, when you give them peace instead of chaos, they come back to life. You begin to glow again. You begin to feel strong again. You begin to feel you again. So if you're ready to start your own healing journey, to feel energy in the morning, calm in the evening, and gratitude every time you look in the mirror, I want you to do something simple right now. Right below in the comments, "I want to improve my health." I'll see your message personally, and I'll send you a small gift, something gentle to help you begin this journey with hope and clarity. And if this message touched your heart, if it reminded you that healing is still possible no matter your age, then please subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone your age who might need a little light, a little hope, a little reminder that it's never too late to feel alive again, because you deserve that. You deserve to wake up feeling calm, clear, and strong. You deserve to live long and live well. So take a deep breath, smile softly, and remember, your body never forgot how to heal. It's just been waiting for you to believe it again.